Hello, this is a continuation of my personal history videos that I've been doing. I've thought about this one for a while and thought I would basically take this video link to go through the different jobs and work experiences that I've had. I thought that'd be interesting. I would have loved to have known each job that my parent had and what they thought of it. I thought I'd go through the chronology first, and then from there talk about different stories or funny things or lessons learned in each of the jobs that might be helpful to somebody in the future. Right now I'm in Chile as a result of one of my projects, and the setting was incredible and I've had some chance to think about it. I'll kind of show you the setting here real quick. This is the Piti Palena Fjord, and this goes out to the Pacific Ocean or the Gulf of Corcovado. And then behind me here is the complex workers' quarters, Keen Show for barbecues, and guest cabins are off in that distance there, but just a real beautiful setting and a fun time to have a little chat with you about my work experiences. My first job was actually working with my dad. We raised bunny rabbits and we'd sell them for $1 a piece on Easter. So we bred the rabbits and had them in cages, and then my dad painted a really cute for sale sign with a bunny rabbit on the front of it, and we had people stop by at Easter to spend $1 to buy a Dutch rabbit. That was kind of cool. But soon I learned that mowing lawns was a good way to make money. I would have been in the 5th and 6th grade then. Had a lawnmower and a pair of hand grass cutters, and would go knock on doors. And I remember I had 2 prices, $5 for a normal lawn, and if it was a bigger lawn that had some issues, I'd charge $10. And that's how I made spending money at that time. I also remember one of my first paid jobs was helping a friend of Dad's who wanted to have the front of his auto dealership building painted white. And I was given some buckets of paint, a brush, and a ladder, and just told to paint it until everything was covered up in white. And that was kind of a fun job for me at the time. They have big, huge flies here at this time of year, so you might see me swatting a tabano fly, which is like our deer flies at home. Anyway, when I got into high school years and stuff, we were living in Fort Knox, and I remember that I got a job there basically delivering hot dogs and potato chips and stuff like that to the 3 or 4 pools that they had on the Fort Knox complex. That was kind of fun. I had a little van that I could drive, and then I took the hot dogs out and put the potato chips in the racks and everything else. So that was basically it for the job that I had at Fort Knox before we moved out to California. I'm just now observing some dolphin swimming right in front of me here. You probably can't see it, but they're surfacing out there in the water. That's really fun to see them here. Just right there in front of us, they're surfacing. They're fishing for a fish called robalo. Anyway, when I went out to Kentucky, when my mom and dad split up, went out to Kentucky, and I remember that I got a job at a golf course, and that kind of piqued my interest in golfing. And I would gather golf balls on the shooting range, and drive a little tractor around, and then had a golf ball picker upper, and I would gather balls, trying to avoid the golf balls that people would hit at the people that were trying to pick up the balls. Later on, when I was a junior in high school, I got a job at a restaurant called Sambo's, which was equivalent to what we call Denny's today. It was kind of a breakfast place. And I started out washing dishes, bussing tables, and then after a while they let me become a part-time cook, and I could make pancakes and cook eggs and stuff like that when the normal cooks needed a break or when they called me in. Sometimes midnight shift if somebody wasn't showing up or something like that. And I remember I made $1.15 an hour as a busboy, but I ended up making $3 when they asked me to cook. So that was almost a double raise for me when I did that. It was a lot of fun to cook and everything else. It kind of got me interested in cooking generally. But then during my senior year, I worked at a place in Livermore, California called Dendos Interiors. It was an interior decorating store, and I'd have to move furniture around, and when people bought a chair, I'd have to deliver it, and I'd have to maintain the building and keep the garage clean and things like that, and kind of dealing with the public at times. That was a good experience for a senior in high school. And then when school got out and I was then going off to, knew that I was going to BYU then, I got a second job and I was a security guard for Security Private Eye Patrol. And I got to wear a uniform. Oddly, the first job I had, they gave me a gun to strap on my waist. Did not give me any instructions at all. I walked out with a loaded revolver. No idea, no training at all what I was supposed to do with that silly gun. And they'd have me on different beats. Sometimes I'd have to go to a drive-in movie theater, make sure that people weren't sneaking in. Sometimes a metal factory, I had to walk around the warehouses and everything. And then they had fairs, and I would have to walk around the outer parameters. Just a lot of different jobs. It was interesting to me, and it was kind of cool to wear a uniform and drive a car that had lights on it. So that was interesting to me. Anyway, so then I went off to school, and I remember my parents paid for my first semester of school and my lodging, and but I knew that for the second semester I'd have to come up with money. So I took a job in the science department cleaning petri dishes and test tubes, and did that for about the first semester and into the second semester. And that did pay me enough so that I could go to my second semester of school. When I did that, I actually did get a summer scholarship to attend something called Discovery 75, where I went up to Ricks College and spent a summer term outdoors, going to botany, geology, religion, and some other class that I had. But it was a great thing to do. As I was preparing to go on my mission, I was called to go on a mission to Argentina, and that was a really good opportunity for me to meet some good kids, be in the outdoors, and think about preparing to go off on my mission. And then I went home after that, and I was leaving on my mission on August the 16th, and I came home and went back and worked at the interior decorating store, and then also worked as a security guard, and then I painted homes. In California, if you painted a home, you're basically just painting the trim around the house, because they had stucco or wood walls or rock walls and stuff. So the painting wasn't hard. You just needed a ladder and buckets of paint again, and you'd scrape a little bit, put primer down, and paint it, and that actually paid pretty good. So, and I was earning money so that I could go off on my mission and buy my suits and stuff like that. So that allowed me to do that. When I left my mission, I did not have enough to get me through the mission, and a family that I had baptized, Tom and Joanne Ingham, I had found the family working as a security guard. I was memorizing my discussions, or charlas, as best I could, and I would walk around at night with 3x5 cards memorizing the discussions. And another person who worked for the same security company would see me doing that, and rather than walk counter to each other, he decided to walk along with me and hold the 3x5 cards And that way I ended up giving him the discussions. He wanted to have the missionaries, and I baptized him the day I went off on my mission. And good old Tom sent me $20 a month for my whole mission, and that helped supplement what my mission cost was, which was started out $90 a month and ended up being $120 a month to be a missionary in Argentina at that time. Anyway, I came home after my mission, had a couple weeks before I went back to BYU in September of '77, and I went around and painted some houses again, and did that for a few weeks. Then I went off to BYU. When I got to BYU, I looked for some jobs and found a job selling Bosch bread makers to women and girls that were going to BYU, and I did it on a commission basis, teaching everybody about the machines and learning how to make wheat bread and all that other kind of stuff. It's kind of fun, and I was in sales, and I did that, and but also in the next semester took a job working at the BYU library. I had to take a test, and they allowed me to take in manuscripts and ancient books and records. So donations would come into the library, and I would look at them and try and determine when they were written and where they would have come from, and just kind of log them that way until somebody more educated basically could look at them appropriately. So I had an opportunity to read old diaries, old journals, look at books written primarily in Latin, and even some papyrus. So that was really an interesting thing to be able to do. My next semester, though, in the summer, I got a job working at ZCMI as a delivery boy. So when people bought things, I would then take the things that people bought, and I would drive to their homes and drop them off. And happened to be that summer that Donny Osmond was getting married, and people from all over the world were sending him gifts from ZCMI. And I was constantly going out and seeing and visiting the Osmonds on Osmond Lane and a lot of other important people that lived up in the mountain avenues above the Provo Temple in Provo. So did that, had some really fun experiences there doing that. Somehow, some way though, I ran into a guy named Harry Ogden, who was a diamond distributor. He supplied most of the local diamond stores with diamonds, and I cannot remember how I met him, but I visited him in his home, and he liked me. And after the first visit, I walked out with about $20,000 worth of diamonds in these little blue packets and a little case of ring sets, so that I could try and sell diamonds on a direct basis to starving, poor students. So I put a little ad in the Daily Universe paper at BYU, called myself Lee's Diamonds, and put in an answering machine in my dorm room and waited for the calls to come in, and they did. I ended up being able to sell 2, maybe 3 diamonds a week, and I marked up the diamonds just $100 off of what my wholesale cost was. So if I sold 3 diamonds, I'd make $300, and if I sold a ring set, I'd make $50. And I did that for about a year and a half. The city found out I was doing my business out of my dorm room and sent me a notice that I had to cease operations. And I was contemplating if I should open up a storefront or something, but at that same time, interestingly, I was taking a real estate class, and in the real estate class I was asked to appraise a real estate project, and I decided to appraise the Elms apartment complex where I was living at the time. And I was doing that and had come up with a value, and I was down in the laundry room, and the owner, Brother Lunsford, came in and asked me what I was doing, and I told him, and he asked me what value I'd come up with, and I told him, and he said, gosh, if somebody would be willing to pay that, I would certainly sell. And I kind of took that to note, went back to the class, turned in my assignment, and mentioned that to Brother DeLoss Ellsworth, and he said, really? And I said, yeah. And he asked me for the contact information for Brother Lunsford, and then about 3 weeks later, I got a Brother Lunsworth, Ellsworth, handed me an envelope with a $20,000 check and said, "Here's the finder's fee for helping us buy the Elms apartment complex." Back in 1989, that was a lot of money. My starting salary was $19,000 that next year, so it was a lot of money. So I knew at that point real estate was in my future. So I then started investigating what I could do job-wise and stuff like that as it relates to real estate. And I found out that I could get a securities license and sell real estate limited partnership interests in a real estate project that was being offered to the public through a company on State Street, 101 South State Street. There was a commercial building that was being built there that since has been torn down and they put in a mall area or something. But I sold $2,000 limited partnership interest. I remember I made $600 per unit that I sold, and that was cool. I was making about as much as I was with the diamonds, but it seemed more professional and more in line with what I might be doing in the future. So I started doing that, and when I graduated in December of '79, I went out to Denver, Colorado, where I met your mother, Holly, and was working for a company that was selling timeshares. Timeshare was a brand new concept then, and the company had a development in Mexico as well as in Winter Park, Colorado. So I would sell timeshare units to people in Winter Park and go down to Mexico with groups of people and sell them timeshares. And again, on a commission basis, although I had a base salary at that time as well. But the opportunity to travel, meet people, sell and stuff was really interesting to me. Decided to not go back to BYU. I had been admitted into a master's program there that they had set up for me. I was the only one that was going to be in it. A master's program for third world economics was what I was going to go after. I liked agriculture, I liked real estate, and I liked economics generally, and I thought that would be a good degree for me to get. But I got married and took a job with another company that was beginning to get into the timeshare market, and I thought I would come on board with that and learn how to set up a real estate organization, etc. But then at that time, 1980, 81, interest rates went up to 18, 19% for mortgages, and the real estate market just kind of floundered. So I then took another job with a company that sold service contracts to auto dealers across the country, basically. And I thought this was going to be a temporary job because I had in mind that somehow, some way, I'd get back to BYU. But started working there and started selling. I did pretty good. I think people were impressed with that, and after about a year and a half or so, they gave me an opportunity to take over a region, the Midwest, which moved our new young family. April had come and Marcy was on her way. We moved out to Liberty, Missouri, where I covered 13 states, up to Minnesota, Iowa, Kansas, Illinois, that particular breadbasket area. I did that and started developing some new products for the company, not only service contracts on automobiles, but also boats, RVs, motorcycles, and things like that. And that created a lot of new business. I think the company was excited about that, so they moved us back to Denver right when Terra came along, and we settled into Denver, and then I began to do private labeling of our products all around the country. But as part of that effort, and this isn't a job, it's something that was created within there, I decided to call on American Express and start offering service contract coverage to anybody that used an American Express card to buy a product that had a warranty. And that started what today is now the Buyer's Assurance Program on all credit card company cards right now. And that led to other products and services, which I'll explain in a different video. But basically, most all of the credit card enhancement benefits, I was involved in either creating the concept or idea, or actually insuring them and administering those. And I ended up doing that for American Express, Visa, MasterCard, Diners Club. I'm forgetting a few of the other banks that we did it with at that time. But I was doing that, working for another company, but then had the opportunity to set up my own company. The underwriters at Lloyd's of London said that they would fund me in the startup of my own operation to handle the unusual insurance products and risks that we were putting together. So I started Innovative Services of America in 1990. That was the same year I was called to be a bishop, and so I went off on my own. A couple of the other employees followed me, and we started with 3 people, and ended up selling that company. 7 years later, we had 3,000 employees and had many major accounts, but that wasn't after a lot of ups and downs and a lot of hard work and everything else, but a lot of fun. And I'll go through some really great experiences with that. But I ended up selling that company to Aon. They came and wanted our client list more than the services that we provided, and that created an opportunity for me to basically I stayed with them 1 year as an employee, because I had been acting as the CEO or the president of that company, and then I left after a year. I wasn't one that could work for somebody else, and began to look into things passively, and that's when I started to look into real estate again, and I made some real estate investments, but that included buying some properties down in South America. I was interested in getting a recreational property with our sale proceeds, but what I wanted we couldn't afford with my sale proceeds, but I found that in Argentina I could buy a 13,000 acre ranch just south of Corcovado in Argentina that was like a national park in the United States. So I bought that, and that got me into cattle operations, and it had a beautiful river on it, and we filmed some ESPN fly fishing shows there, and just a great experience, which I can share some of that later on as well. But while I was doing that, I found out that other people might want the same kind of thing that I bought, so I got into selling other people's ranches in Argentina and in Chile to wealthy people that wanted the same kind of experience that I had. So I did that on a part-time basis and had some luck in selling 2 or 3 big ranches that brought in some really nice commissions. Then I had an opportunity a few years later. I got interested in family history, and when I did that, I could see that for a lot of people, genealogy was like preparing taxes. To me, it was extremely interesting. It was like being a detective, and you'd find a lot of information, especially because none of my genealogy or family history work had been done. And so I decided to try and make it into a game, and I contacted Jim Sorensen up in Salt Lake City, and he asked me to be the CEO of GeneTree and to take the family trees and the DNA databases that they had and see if we could monetize that or sell the company. So I was up there for about 1.5 years, and we ended up selling the company to Ancestry.com after trying to sell it to pharmaceutical companies that at that point had no interest in the propensity of diseases and things like that through family trees. Now that's changed since then. We were a little bit early, but there's a lot of interest in that now. But after that effort, I decided to make a Facebook game called Family Village, where people could do their genealogy as if it were a game, and the rewards would be getting historical documents on their family. And that was a real fun experience, a success over a period of time. But all games have a life, and if you don't build games on top of that, you really can't sustain the company. So it was a short-lived opportunity, but a lot of fun to be in the social media environment, work with Facebook, learn about gaming and things like that. But I found out I was a little too old for that environment, really, and decided to move on to something else. I had a partner that had invested with me in Argentina, and we decided to put together a real estate fund to buy up homes after the 2008 real estate crash, and I did that. Learned an incredibly difficult but good lesson through that experience, which I will talk to you about as well. And then as part of that process, I became involved with some friends that wanted to build apartments in South Jordan in front of the Front Runner station. So we built 302 apartments there, which was, I was the project leader, so had to basically get all the zoning, put all that together, but it was fun to be involved in a really large construction project like that. So since then, I've just been doing a lot of passive kind of investment, kind of dabbling in real estate purchases and stuff like that. But that's kind of the chronology of the different things that I did, but the lessons and the fun things in each of those I will tell you in another video if you have interest, and we'll see where that takes us. So I'll turn this off now that all the flies are beginning to swarm all around me, but hope that you have enjoyed this.